Like I said earlier, that tonight we're not only going to be having people that are not only making an impact in the world of science and technology, but they are making an impact in the world that we're living in. Currently, actually, right now, we have Janet Wasinda. Hi, Janet.
Hi.
How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Well, I just don't want to waste any further time because, time is money.
Yes,
so
yes.
I just, for a listener that just tuned in right now, can you just give a brief description of what biochemistry is?
Biochemistry is just simply put the study of life at the molecular level. I think that's the very easiest way to describe, where you study what goes on in the cell, and the cell is a unit of life, essentially. So whatever happens in the cell amplifies and becomes the reality of the whole being. So whatever goes on in that area is what biochemists study. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you also share your journey from studying biochemistry to pursuing a master's in molecular and cell biology?
Okay. Yeah. I studied biochem at Gombe State University back home in Nigeria, and by the time I finished, I was looking at the skills that I've acquired and what is in demand and what is required in the bigger space, and the conversation about whether to jump in to get into the job market or to upskill, came about. And I felt it was necessary for me to upskill. I don't know. I love learning. I didn't feel that I was equipped enough to be able to compete at the world stage, especially at the level of impact that I wanted to have.
Yes, ma'am.
So I decided, I'm going to upskill. And the science space is very interesting, and some areas are more related than others. And so molecular biology is just, a colleague of biochemistry. In fact, in some schools, like in Wits here, it's in the same school, in the same department. So and you just have these different lecturers having different areas of expertise, but they're all the same. So I decided to pursue a master's in the holistic molecular and cell biology, to be able to have a balanced idea of what it is to to have a balanced idea of the sciences, and not just continue with whatever it is that I began with. And I got the Mandela Rhodes Scholarship. I think that was the first thing that determined what I studied or what the research I was going to do. So MRF is the Mandela Rhodes Foundation. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, as I was doing my research, I came across that.
Yes. It's a leadership scholarship, an amazing platform that has given myself and many other young folks the opportunity to study and also to support our leadership journey in a way. So getting the scholarship was the first step for my journey to coming to South Africa. And then I had to look for a school or a lab that I felt aligned with and also would accept me to be able to pursue a master's in, and that was how I found myself at Wits.
So how does your background in science influence your approach to community development and peace building?
So I think the core of it is your values. Even without science, if you just feel as if you are a stakeholder in your community, an active member in your community, if you feel the need to want to contribute, that's the core. So for me, one of my top values is service. I was raised in a community where service was the norm. Everyone around there wanted to give than to receive. So it didn't matter if I was in science or in law or whatever. Eventually, whatever skill that you professionalize in or you acquire over the years of growth, it's because the value of service is there, you are highly likely to give back that into the community. So I would say that I'm an active member of my community first. And yes, I am a scientist in training that hopes to use my training to be able to have more meaningful impact in my community, wherever I find myself at a particular time.
So if you were not a scientist, I just want to just like derail a little bit.
Yes.
If you were not a scientist, what would you be? Which career would you have followed?
That's very interesting. I love having good conversations. I was thinking about this the other day. I think I would either be a psychologist or just be maybe a journalist, but that just enjoy speaking to people. I'm trying to understand how people think about a subject matter, like what's their thought process through. So I'm fascinated by people. I'm fascinated about how much people know and how much they are willing to do, and just there's just a well of knowledge. So if I wasn't actively pursuing a career in science, I would have been express my curiosity in maybe in psychology, or maybe in journalism, where I would moderate conversations, where I would have access to actually speak to people and get to know them at a certain level of depth. Yes.
So you've been involved in various initiatives aimed at youth development, of course. So can you tell us about the Niger Youth Unite and its impact on teenagers in your community?
I see you guys did a lot of homework. Niger Youth Unite was one of the very interesting projects that I took part in my teenage age. Like I said, I grew up in a very service-oriented community, and I somehow stood out in that space, and I was privileged to be trained by international organizations on very key issues. And at that time, or even still now, the prevailing challenge in my community is religious intolerance. And part of the strategy to help the future generation to prevent the cycle of violence that was prevailing at the time was to bring young folks from different religions to teach them peace together. Yes. So Niger Youth Unite was the second project, actually. The first one was Niger Girls Unite. It was, I think, one of the key projects that impacted me personally. I think I was 14. After being trained, I remember myself and my friend Mariam Nasoba, we came up with a project that got a lot of attention. But it was just a simple idea. We noticed that the people we are trying to reach out to teach peace to have not even experienced each other. So what we did was to bring young Christian girls, young Muslim girls together to learn peace together. And it was a game changer, because people were actually hating each other from afar. They are hating who they've not experienced before. So it was one of the beautiful projects. So Niger Youth Unite was like a follow-up project, where at that stage I was already serving as a mentor to continuously create that cycle of awareness. Yes. So yeah.
And how are you managing your masters and also being in service? I'm sure it's quite taxing, but how are you managing both though?
No, I mean, there's time for everything. Yes. And this upskilling that I'm doing is very necessary, because if you are a young leader in your community, you want to be able to inspire, and not just in one area. You have to be a symbol of hope. You have to be a symbol of growth as well. So pausing on very active social issues to pursue a career in science is also an indicator that there's time for growth, and then you need to continue to. So if I finish well, I will now be operating from a professional level, and I will have more wisdom and transferable skills from what I have learned to be able to take whatever social issue that I'm addressing to another level. So it's just expected. Yeah, so whoever is doing something should also develop themselves, essentially. Yeah.
So as a mentor, how do you encourage young girls to pursue education and in scientific fields, particularly in communities where this may not be a common path?
For me, I think the most important thing is just being a good example. If you don't live it, it's hard to preach it. So but the element that I want to speak about is, in addition to living it, you are being honest about the journey. So I was speaking to my friend earlier about being honest about not just the success. Oh yeah, I got this scholarship. Oh, I got this award. Oh, I got to travel to this place and do all those things. Great. But what are the challenges that accompany these things. You're being real. Okay, as a growth enthusiast, as you're trying to develop yourself, there are days you feel the imposter syndrome. There are days where you will fail. For real, there are days where you will feel like giving up, and it has happened to me on so many levels. But it's just holding on to your core and being resilient. I recently added grit to my values because you need grit. It's similar to resilience, but grit is actually what takes you to the end from where you have started. So it's finishing what you've started and being that holistic being of reality. Yes. I think it's enough inspiration for whoever is watching. Yes. And of course, if I get a chance, I have one-on-one conversations with people when they reach out, or even avail myself for those roles whenever I can. But ultimately, I think it's just being a living example is what matters the most.
Okay, so we always highlight the good things, we talking about the good things, but what are some of the challenges that you faced in your industry, especially as a force of a lady? You know what I mean? What are some of the challenges that have you experienced that you left a mark, that you go I didn't think I was going to survive this?
So it's imposter syndrome is a real thing. It's sounding cliche and sounding very common, but it's real because it creeps in to question who you are, and until you know and have a core of who you are, it's going to be tempered with by sometimes external things, sometimes even internal things. So reminding yourself of who you are at every moment in time has helped me to overcome those times where I feel very scared or feel very anxious. And I was just reminiscing 2 years ago. I was thinking about, I need to do a master's, and now I'm rounding up. I'm already thinking, what's next? Either do I want to do a PhD or do I want a job experience? Which one is important, and how do I navigate this part? So it's I always talk about values because they ground you. It's what gives you the leverage which you operate from. So whenever you feel down, whenever you feel scared, whenever you feel intimidated, whenever you feel feeling like giving up, you remind yourself of where you've been. And there's another important concept I don't joke about. I feel like tracking your growth helps, and not just tracking it mentally. If you can even put it down, record it. Some people like to write, some people like to record themselves, whatever method that works for you. The real-time recording or tracking of your growth process, it's helpful for just check and balances. It's helpful for reminding you of where you were and where you are hoping to be. It reminds you to keep in line with what the initial plan. And even when things change, the good type of change or the bad type of change, you know exactly when it happens. And when you are telling the story, you can say it in a more organized way, and it will be more beautiful to tell.
Yeah.
So
I realize that we only have a couple of minutes left with you. So I just want to ask you, your podcast Lifing aims to reach out to young people. What topics do you cover, and how do you think they resonate with your audience? So
myself and my friends love to have good conversations about just the concept of growth, like I just explained. And we thought it would be really nice to make it open to other people to contribute. And like the name Lifing, it's a process. So we cover everything that emerges at every point. So if you check my recordings from 2 years ago, it's about, what do I want to do? Do I want a master's or what? You see? Or how am I approaching the conversations about fear or anxiety, or even friendship relationships and how they transform, or our nurturing a career idea, or just managing essentially everything that emerges. The transition from teenagehood to young adult to full-grown adult responsibility, it's a wide gap, and so many things happen in between. And it was very interesting because we had people always relating to what we are saying, and always, for those that have passed through what we are talking about, have so much to tell that other people found helpful. So we cover essentially everything in Lifing. Of course, we are grounded by certain principles too. We don't just speak out of context. We have people that we are accountable to, and both of us are young Christian girls, so we still are within the bounds of what the value is for us, but we make sure that we offer value, and we also have people that come on to share from their wealth of wisdom that can help us navigate the life thing process.
Okay, just to track back a little bit, right?
Yes.
You spoke about awards and and recognition. So I just wanted to since you've received several awards for your contributions to peace and education, do these recognitions what do they mean to you personally and professionally? Do they mean anything? Do they hold some sort of weight?
It's very funny because the awards there was no strategy for getting the award. It just came. There was no plan, so it was really encouraging that actually people were open to appreciating a young person trying to do something meaningful in our community in a way. So it was encouraging. But it still didn't I hope that I wouldn't do things just for the recognition, but because there was a need for it.
Yes.
And if the recognition comes, it's really nice. But also I wouldn't deny it played a lot of role in my professional and even development, because it gave more people awareness of who you are, what you do, and opened a lot of doors and opportunities as well. So it did play a lot of role in my life professionally, but it was not pre-planned. It was just something that followed a sincere quest to want to contribute to society in a way.
Okay, just last one for the road. Looking ahead, what are your goals for your research in molecular and cell biology, and how do you plan to integrate that with your advocacy work? Yes.
Okay, so I believe that with more professional capacity and in more professional grounding and exposure and professionalism, I would be able to have better impact. I'm a student in training now, so if in few years time I have that qualification, probably a job, probably a source of income, it gives you a leverage, because you are whatever you want to do, you are doing it from an informed place, an empowered place. I always like to think of any contributions I want to have in the future should be maybe from my pocket. I should be able to afford to do those. There's so much freedom when you are doing it for by yourself, because you have control about the direction that you want certain things to be. Because if you are reliant on other people who are benevolent and doing well, of course you still are limited within what they expect of you. So being a full-blown professional would give me the access, would give me the qualification, would give me the resource to be able to have even bigger impact. Yes.
Okay, in closing, I just wanted to know, what would you like to see for the young women in Africa in the future? What is that thing that you would love to see in the future for young women in Africa? I
want her to know that she's already inherently intelligent. She already is the full package. The young African girl child is already it's inborn. She just needs to be able to be in spaces that will bring that out. Be intentional about people that will bring that out. I always say that I'm a girl that was raised by the community. I was raised by many people. I learned a lot from many people. I have mentors, I have senior friends at every time who have held my hand. So that community brought out the best in me. So the girl child, you are already good. Just make sure you're in the right space. Learn to say no where you have to say no. Be honest about what you truly, really want, and don't just do things because the society is expecting you to. Just be true. Guided by more your good principles, which I believe you have. But so just be around the right space, and you get the support you need.
Janet, thank you so much for everything. Thank you for making the time to actually join us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And may God guide you in everything that you do, and may you reach other heights.